to Street Fighter 3.
May 12th, 1999. Exactly 25 years ago today, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Fight for the Future was released in Japanese arcades. "25 years, man. It's kinda crazy when you think about it." So about a year or so ago, I started putting plans together for what was going to be a very big celebration of this anniversary for Third Strike. I actually was intending to be in Japan at this point of the year, and I was going to, try and play Third Strike in a Japanese arcade, and I was going to try and go to Cooperation Cup and all that. And those plans weren't very far into development, I guess you could say, before I kind of realized about 6 months ago that it pretty much wasn't going to happen because of a lot of real life stuff that came up at the time. So yeah, unfortunately, those plans did fall through. I'm not totally giving up on that. I will do all that stuff at some point in the future. I don't know when. Hopefully next year would be really good. If not, I'll definitely be there for the 30th anniversary, although that's 5 years away at this point, so I hope it's not that far away. So I started thinking of some ideas to do instead, and obviously nothing was ever going to really be equal to that kind of idea of like going to Japan and playing Third Strike in the place where that game was made and everything like that. But I tried to come up with some ideas. I thought maybe doing like a tournament of sorts, but if I can't go to Japan, I'm definitely not going to do a tournament. Like, that's just too crazy of an idea, really. I thought about commissioning like a collective of artists to do some special artwork for the game in the anniversary. And while I didn't go through with that idea fully, I did end up commissioning Quasimodo X on Twitter to do the thumbnail for me, so big shout out to him. He did an amazing job. I really love the thumbnail for this video, so please go check him out on Twitter. He does amazing artwork of Street Fighter stuff and other stuff as well, so I'll put a link to all of his stuff in the description, and I should have had a picture of his Twitter handle and profile page by now. But yeah, I just started thinking about what I could do to really celebrate Third Strike's anniversary and just celebrate the game as a whole. And eventually I decided to just do this video. I just thought, well, what if I just do a video where I just sit down and I just talk about why I love this game so much. Because if you've seen this channel at any point in the last year, 2 years, whatever, like, you'll know how much I talk about this game and how much I go on about it. But I don't think I've ever just sat down and just gone through exactly why I love this game so much, why it's so important to me, why I've based so much of my online identity basically around this game. So that's what this video is. It's not the perfect, celebration of Third Strike and its anniversary. Like I said, I had much bigger plans that I was going to do. But with all that in mind, I really just wanted to do a video where I just spoke about the game and my feelings on it, and just, like I said, why I love it so much. So as you've no doubt gathered by this point, this video has no script. It's got nothing like that, or guidelines for me to work off. It is going to be me literally just rambling for however long this video ends up going on for. I really have no idea. So yeah, it's going to get messy. There's going to be noises in the background that I won't know are even there until I listen back to this later on. So yeah, apologies if weird stuff happens that is distracting or whatever. I'll try my best to get rid of it, obviously. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't detract too much from the overall experience, I guess. But yeah, that's just what it's going to be. So if you're somebody who just doesn't really care for Third Strike or thinks the game is overrated or anything, that's completely fair. I totally get that. This video flat out just isn't going to be for you. So if you're one of those people who just doesn't like the game, or just doesn't basically want to hear somebody gush about it for the next like I said, however long this video ends up being, yeah, probably best to click off now. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get straight into it. And I think I want to start at the start. I want to start where my personal history with Third Strike began, and kind of how I ended up getting on the road that led to where I am today, now sitting here doing this video through this channel, where I've also in the past used it to share how much I love this game and all the characters and everything. So yeah, let's just start right at the beginning. So believe it or not, I didn't actually grow up playing Street Fighter. I mostly grew up playing games like Tekken and Mortal Kombat, and occasionally stuff like Soul Calibur, and I was pretty much content with that until at least my mid-teens. But if my memory is correct, the first Street Fighter game I actually played was, again believe it or not, Street Fighter 2, which is very ironic and funny considering I have spent so much time and energy in the past making note that I never grew up with Street Fighter 2, or I have no attachment attachment to that game or, those characters or anything like that. And it was my first Street Fighter game. But I think the way I played Street Fighter 2 for the first time is how I, ended up not really caring about it much. Because I believe the first time I ever found, Street Fighter 2 anywhere and played it was, believe it or not, was in a history museum in Leeds, which is a city, in the UK. And I think it was the Leeds Royal Armouries Museum or something along those lines. And all I remember is because we were on a school trip, and I remember, going through all the floors and seeing all the exhibits, and, they have a lot of, armor and stuff from, ancient times and, medievals and stuff like that. But I always remember on the second floor near the cafe, they had just a solitary random Street Fighter 2 cabinet. And I don't know what version of Street Fighter 2 it was. If I had to take a guess, it was probably the vanilla World Warrior version. And yeah, I remember, just having a couple spare moments when nobody was really around, and I just walked over to it and started playing it. And I think I played Ken, and I think I only did one match. I think I must have fought Guile, because I vaguely remember the aircraft stage, Guile stage. So I think I must have only done the one match, and I didn't play it long. I don't think I even finished that match. I just kind of messed around with it for a bit, because I'd heard about Street Fighter 2, but I never really, seen anything of it. I honestly don't know if at that point in my life, because by this point I was maybe 10 or 11, maybe a little bit older, I'm not sure. But I don't even know if at that point, if you could have shown me a picture of Blanca or Honda or Dhalsim, I don't know if I would have ever said oh yeah, that's so and so from Street Fighter 2. That's how just disconnected from Street Fighter I was, because I was so just focused growing up on playing Mortal Kombat and the 3D era PS2 games. I love those games. That was all I really needed at that point, to be honest, from my point of view. But for some reason, one thing I've always found funny is one of the first things I ever remember knowing, in my memory bank, the one thing that was stored in my memory bank of Street Fighter was that you could change the color palettes for Ryu and Ken, so you could have a red Ryu and a white Ken. I don't know why that always stuck with me, but that just always stuck with me as something you could always do in those games. But yeah, that was basically just it with me in Street Fighter for the longest time. It wasn't until a few years later, I want to say it was probably about 2009, maybe 2010ish, when Street Fighter 4 came out. And I must have seen or heard about Street Fighter 4 in official PlayStation magazine or Games Master or other, gaming magazines that were kind of out and popular at the time. Because for some reason, I remember being out with some friends, going around the shops and all that in the town I lived near. And we went into a game shop, which for those who aren't in the UK, game is basically the GameStop equivalent over here. And we went in there and I saw Street Fighter 4, and for some reason I remember just wanting it, and I don't know why. I still don't know why I was so insistent on getting Street Fighter 4, because it was all I knew was that Ryu could wear red, Ken could wear white. I don't know, that was just all I really knew. But for some reason, I think I must have just read, the previews and stuff of the game when it was coming out, and I must have just got sucked into the hype somehow. But yeah, I remember just really going on about how much I wanted the game, but I didn't have any money at the time. I think I'd already either spent it or just didn't have any in general. And one of my friends that was with me was actually, kind enough to buy me the game. And I was, nowadays I look back and I'm incredibly grateful to that person. I don't see or speak to them anymore, so I have no idea what they're up to now or anything like that. But yeah, one of my friends just bought it for me, and I was really, I was really thankful, was very considerate of them to do that. And I remember getting home later that day and putting in, Street Fighter 4, vanilla, the PS3 vanilla copy of Street Fighter 4, and I played it, and I must have only ever played as Ryu, Ken, and maybe Abel, because I definitely got to Seth, because I have a vague memory of seeing the intro of Seth in the arcade mode when he jumps down off the top of the Bleach machine. And even back then, all I remember is just thinking how weird and lame Seth looked, it's so funny looking back on it. Even then I just didn't like him that much. But yeah, that's one of the very core memories I have of playing Street Fighter 4 at that time, was just getting to Seth and just being is that it? Is this really, is this the final boss? What? What's going on here? And yeah, that was pretty much the last time I played Street Fighter 4 back then, because I really did not like that game. I don't know what it was exactly, but I remember playing that game and, seeing Seth and, trying a couple of the characters out, and I just did not like the game, flat out. I just hated it. I think one of my chief complaints at the time I remember saying to people was I just thought the game even back then was just so ugly. I thought the visuals and the character models were just hideous. And I know back then some people were kinder to Street Fighter 4's visuals, compared to how they are now about it. But yeah, I just did not like the game. I did not have a good time with it. I did not have a good experience with it. I think I don't think it swore me off Street Fighter. Like, I don't remember specifically thinking, like, I'm never playing Street Fighter again. Like, this is lame. I can't believe this is the series everyone goes crazy about. I didn't think anything like that. But I think it was mostly just directed towards 4 in terms of just, like, why am I playing this when I could be playing, like, Tekken 5 on my PSP? Or playing, you know, Mortal Kombat Deception on PS2, or, you know, or Soul Calibur on, you know, PS3. And then that was it with me in Street Fighter for a very long time. I remember going back, you know, like I said, I went back to Tekken, I went back to Mortal Kombat, I went back to Soul Calibur 4, you know, all those games, I just went back to them and just focused on the games that I had grown up with because, you know, I had dipped my toe into Street Fighter and I didn't like it. I didn't gel with any of the characters. You know, nothing about the game stood out to me in a way where I was like, yeah, this is something that I'm going to, you know, deep dive into. This is, you know, there was no initiation process with Street Fighter 4 for me. It was just, I tried this game and I just didn't like it. And then we're going to fast forward to 2011 because that was a very pivotal year for me in video games because that was the year that Mortal Kombat 9 came out. And in a lot of ways, I really credit Mortal Kombat 9 for being the game that actually got me back into fighting games as a whole because, you know, in the couple of years between Street Fighter 4, you know, and Mortal Kombat 9, I was actually starting to like fall out with fighting games for a bit. Like I wasn't playing Mortal Kombat, you know, the PS2 games as much. I remember not being that big into Armageddon. Like, I remember thinking it was cool having all the characters, but I just didn't think the game was as fun or as interesting as Deception. You know, sometimes I was playing Tekken 5 on the PSP, but, you know, I don't remember if Tekken 6 was after MK9 or not. I think it was after. So, because I really didn't like Tekken 6. But yeah, I think that was after MK9, so I'll kind of disregard that for now. But yeah, like, I was just kind of in a rut. There was just nothing really fighting game-wise that was, you know, catching my attention. And then I remember seeing the preview images for MK9. I remember it was the E3 build where it was like Kung Lao and Johnny Cage and Sub-Zero. And I remember like being blown away at it because it was so much of like reading those like preview images and, you know, seeing just the game action. Because I remember going on YouTube and like googling it, like, oh, you know, like Mortal Kombat 2011, like is there a new Mortal Kombat game? I can't believe it. And then like seeing all the characters and seeing their new designs, like I still think to this day, like just as a side tangent, I still think to this day the first time I ever saw Mortal Kombat 9 might be the most I've ever just been impressed and blown away by a game. Because like that was literally like almost seeing, like I think that's for me was my like 2D to 3D moment in a way. Like obviously the PS2 games were 3D, but it was like seeing those pixels of the PS2 and then seeing like these HD models for MK9 was just mind blowing. But yeah, I remember just getting into MK9 and like that was when I first started going on forums online because I used to go on a place called Mortal Kombat Online, which I believe is actually still like up and running, but it's obviously not as, you know, hustling and bustling as it was back then. It was a real big hub for Mortal Kombat stuff. I think it was up there with like Test Your Might and stuff like that in terms of just like forums solely dedicated to Mortal Kombat. And yeah, I just used to talk on there like all the time about like every little detail about the games, every time a character would get leaked or teased or, you know, announced every time there was a new trailer. I remember when Babalities, you know, first got I think they were leaked for MK9 because I think people got like early copies. You know, like I was so all over like just that game and just every bit of info. I was just consuming it as much as I could. And like I said, that was the first game that I really did that for online. But it was one thread on Mortal Kombat Online in particular that really kickstarted, you know, my eventual road to becoming so obsessed with Third Strike. Because don't worry, this is coming back to Third Strike. But yeah, one day, and I think it was like not far off the release date of the game, I think it was only like a week or so before, maybe a couple weeks before MK9 came out, somebody made a thread on MK Online. And it was basically like, oh, I saw this funny video by these guys who did like a video on MK9. They must have got like a review copy or something. And I watched it. And that video was two best friends play Mortal Kombat 9. And I'm sure quite a lot of you have gotten just a wave of nostalgia and all that, hearing those guys' names again. But yeah, that was the first video of theirs I ever watched, was two best friends play Mortal Kombat 9 on Machinima. And I loved the video. I thought the video was hilarious. I loved their banter. I loved their interactions with each other. I thought it was just so funny. You know, I thought them going through the game. And I could tell just from the video that like they were fans of the series. You know, they knew all the random stuff that I knew. You know, it was just really cool. And I remember going on their channel and having a look at their other videos. I remember watching their Deadly Premonition video as well and thinking like, oh, these guys are awesome. Like I'd never even heard of Deadly Premonition, you know, and I thought that video was hilarious. And then my memory's not entirely clear on this. I don't know if their Third Strike video was already uploaded by this point or if it came out later. I think it must have came out later. But yes, eventually I saw their video that they did for Machinima on Third Strike. And that was the first time I ever saw Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. And I watched the video. I thought it was hilarious. I loved the bit at the end where they tried to do the Daigo parry tutorial in the challenge mode in the online edition version. But yeah, I thought it was a very funny video and I enjoyed it a lot. But one thing that just really stuck with me with that video was that just visually, I couldn't get over how just gorgeous the game looked. Even on like old, like 2011, 2012, era YouTube quality, you could just tell how beautiful Third Strike was. And that was pretty much the beginning. That was the first time I ever saw Third Strike. That was the first time I had even heard of its name. And at the time, I didn't recognize a single character in that outside of Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li. I didn't know who any of them were. I didn't know that Alex was the main character. I didn't know that Sean was Ken's student. I didn't know that Makoto was trying to rebuild her dojo. These characters were as foreign and unknown to me as literally any other character in Street Fighter at that point. Like I said, I only ever really knew Ryu, Ken, maybe Chun-Li, maybe Abel. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit in time here because truthfully I actually didn't really think much about Third Strike after I watched that video. I kind of just moved on with my life really, which is weird considering how much I was instantly like smitten with the game and thought it was beautiful, and it just jumped out to me in that kind of way. For whatever reason, I just didn't think about the game again for a very long time. I just kind of forgot about it and just moved on. But we eventually move on to a few years later, because by 2014 I had jumped from the Machinima channel and following Two Best Friends Play there to eventually following them to their own channel where they were now Super Best Friends Play, and there were two other people now involved in the channel. And they had a series that was going on back then that was called Friday Night Fisticuffs, where basically the four of them would just sit down together and they would just play fighting games for about an hour. And honestly, it was so much fun. I learned so much about fighting games at that point, series that I never really even knew existed prior to, getting into this channel and watching the Fisticuff series. I think even games like King of Fighters 98, which is my favourite King of Fighters game, I think a big part of why I liked that game so much was because of the Friday Night Fisticuffs video those guys did on it. But no other video of theirs was as influential on me as their Friday Night Fisticuffs video on Third Strike. Because this video is what I personally consider to be the thing that sold me on Third Strike the most. Because yeah, while their Machinima video that they did on Third Strike introduced me to the game and allowed me to actually see it in action, that was mostly them two just kind of dicking around, mostly cracking jokes about it and doing skits with the game. But in terms of just showing what the game could do and just showing it truly in action, that Fisticuffs video is really what sold me on the game. Because that video was basically just an hour of people just playing the game, just showcasing all the knowledge that they had gained over the years of playing, and generally just being very knowledgeable on the subject matter of the game and how the different characters and what they could do, and on top of obviously the humor and the banter that those four guys had. And it was after watching that video that I flat out was I need to get this game. I need to play this game because I need to experience it for myself, because just seeing it isn't enough anymore. I've already seen it, I've seen it plenty enough now, I need to play it. Because truthfully, all the characters I saw in that video looked awesome to me. Everybody looked great. When Matt is trying to do DDTs as Alex, I was like, holy shit, this guy can do DDTs and he looks awesome. Even Sean, who they shit on relentlessly throughout that video, I thought, oh, this guy looks really cool. He's awful, but he still looks fun. And of course stuff like Pat trying to do Q's taunt 3 times and the others mocking him for it.
You may think I'm a huge asshole for taunting 3 times, but it turns
You're
out
only a huge asshole for counting them
one.
out loud.
That's why you're an
That's a huge
asshole.
asshole thing.
Perfect, Liam. The deal.
It was just so much of that video just honestly not only just influenced me to eventually go and play Third Strike for myself, but a lot of my initial thoughts and feelings on the game were kind of based on what they were saying in that video. And it's that thing of obviously people talk about that group and Super Best Friends Play and the impact they had. For me, so much of my tastes that I have today I feel comes from those guys. And I just want to use this portion of the video to really just shout them out, because honestly, even though they had their own fan base and still have their own fan base despite disbanding many years ago now, I never truly felt like they got their roses. They never got their due for just how influential they were during that time. They were such a core part of just where my tastes ended up going in life. It's just crazy how 4 people was just such a huge part of just my life and where my tastes would align, where my interests would go. So just huge shout out to those guys, all 4 of them, Matt, Wooly, Liam and Pat. Just so much love for those guys. I really can't thank them enough for everything they did. So you would think that by this point, surely the next thing I did was buy Third Strike Online Edition. Well, you would be wrong, because I didn't. Instead, something came along at that time that just for some reason distracted me from getting Online Edition, and of all the things that it was Ultra Street Fighter 4. Yeah, for some reason, Ultra Street Fighter 4 was coming out around this time, and I just got sucked into the hype. And I literally remember, honestly kind of looking at the two games on the PlayStation Store at the time and just being like, I really like the look of Third Strike. I've watched that Fisticuffs video dozens of times by this point. I know I'm going to enjoy the game because it looks amazing. But on the other hand, Ultra Street Fighter 4 is coming out literally any day at this point, and there's a lot of hype going into it and a lot of people are excited, and I panicked. I bought Ultra Street Fighter 4. Now you may be thinking why didn't you just buy both? Well, at the time I could only really afford one. But yeah, I chose Ultra Street Fighter 4, a choice that to this day I'm still really confused about. I don't know why I ended up going with Ultra Street Fighter 4, because I knew that I didn't like Street Fighter 4. I remembered not enjoying that game 5 years ago when I played it in 2009. Yet for some reason I still bought it. And I played Ultra Street Fighter 4, and I thought it was okay. I recognized some of the characters that were also in Third Strike, like Dudley and Makoto, but ultimately I was just yeah, this is still Street Fighter 4. I still think this game's pretty ugly. There's still not really anybody that immediately jumps out to me outside of those, Third Strike characters, but they just look worse in this game. So, I almost immediately regretted that choice. I almost immediately was I wish I didn't get this game. And don't get me wrong, I like Ultra Street Fighter 4, I like Street Fighter 4 as a whole now. I really didn't for a long time, but I've really made my peace with that game and I enjoy it for what it is. But that choice was one that I knew straight away that I fucked up on. I knew straight away that Third Strike was the game I should have got. And yeah, despite only having enough money for one game, and despite using that money to buy the new, updated version of Street Fighter 4, I think within an hour of playing Ultra Street Fighter 4, I ended up going back on the PlayStation Store and buying Third Strike Online Edition. And the rest, they say, is history, because from the moment I first booted that game up and got to the main menu, I was just instantly hooked. I knew straight away that this was the right choice, this was always the right choice, and yeah, that was the start of my Third Strike journey. So, with that lengthy recap out the way, let's talk about what it is exactly that makes me love Third Strike so much. And honestly, this is going to be a very cliche answer. I know probably some people are going to be listening to this part of the video and going to roll their eyes into the back of their skull, but it's the only answer I feel I can give, in the sense that I just feel like it's honestly everything. I truly believe there is no other game out there that is like Third Strike. The sights, the sounds, the aesthetic, the music, the characters, the story, the stages, everything is just so, I don't want to say perfect, but to me it's perfect. And I know, yes, Street Fighter 3 Second Impact and New Generation have, better stages. I'm not gonna deny that. But honestly, I feel like the stages in Third Strike, I think they're good. I think they're good stages. Yeah, they're not as visually insane as some of the stuff that they were doing with stages in New Generation and Second Impact. But I still wouldn't replace, stages like Ryu's stage or Alex and Ken's stage or anything like that. I wouldn't replace those stages for the world, because they are just as much a part of Third Strike as anything else in that game. But more than anything, I just struggle to believe how almost just perfectly of a lined up game Third Strike is. In the sense that, if even one little thing about Third Strike was out of place or different, it would just not be the same. It just wouldn't be. This is going to sound weird, but honestly, sometimes when I think about Third Strike, I just think about how really this game just shouldn't exist. Because seriously, think about it, why does this game exist? How does a game like this exist? You have Street Fighter 3 New Generation, which is one of the biggest bombs of all time. A game that led to the series being put on ice for nearly 10 years. Still to this day, we're dealing with the ramifications of Street Fighter 3 New Generation, failing in every conceivable way. And obviously, I think they were always going to do Second Impact. I think that's been confirmed at this point by the developers of the game. That they released that game knowing that at some point they were going to do a second version that fixed all the problems that, New Generation clearly had. So, in that sense, I'm not surprised Second Impact exists. I think it was always going to exist. I think it was always going to be the kind of version of what the game should have been at launch. Second Impact is basically what New Generation should have been. But that's really where it should have ended, because why would Capcom look at New Generation's failure and then look at Second Impact, which was received a lot better, but still was nowhere near close to what Capcom were initially wanting with New Generation. So why would you look at New Generation, a game that bombed, and then look at Second Impact, a game that was mildly successful at best? Why would you look at them and then go, you know what, we're going to do a third version? And not just a new version, we're just going to let Neo G go nuts and basically create this game again from the bottom up. It shouldn't have happened. And then allowing this team to then just go, you know, that style that we had that was, you know, very familiar with New Generation and Second Impact, you know, that kind of fit in line with the other Street Fighter games and, you know, our other 90s Capcom arcade output. Let's just completely scrap all of that and just go with a completely different vibe, a completely different aesthetic, a completely different sound. One that not only we've never done before in any of our games, but something that may have never been done at any point before at this time. Let's just completely make this soundtrack hip-hop inspired. Let's get rid of the classic Capcom announcer voice and let's just get a rapper from Canada, get him to write the lyrics for a main theme, a credits theme, and a character select theme. Give him 24 hours to do that, by the way, which still blows my mind. And then on top of that, let's have the same rapper just be the announcer for the game and let's let him just record some of the most iconic audio samples of all time. Let's just do all of this, you know, all of this risky stuff, all of this stuff that would just absolutely kill the game in any other scenario. Let's just do it and let's absolutely fucking nail it. Let's do all of the stuff and make it so good that 25 years later, this game is still untouched in so many areas. Presentation, vibes, aesthetic, visuals, animations, this game is still, in my opinion at least, untouched. How does a game like this happen? Like, seriously, I'm not even joking. How does a game like this happen? There is about 20 times in all of the stuff I've just said where someone, anyone at any point could have just gone, this game is ridiculous, scrap it. Like, why are we even going in this direction? New Generation bombed, Second Impact barely did any better. We're just going to cut our losses and we're just going to move on. But no one said that. People just let this game happen and it's just one of the best fighting games ever made. It's just utterly insane and it's such a key part of why I love this game so much, because it shouldn't exist. It just so openly dares to be different. It just so openly dares to just be what it is. Like, what you see is what you get. Third Strike doesn't attempt to go, oh, you know, we're sorry, we're going to go back to what, you know, you guys loved. We're going to have, you know, all the systems you used to love. We're going to have all the characters you used to love. Like, look, see, I know we've got a lot of characters, but look, like, we're adding Chun-Li, we're adding Guile, we're adding Dhalsim, we're adding Sagat, we're adding Zangief back, we're adding all these characters back, you know, please, we're sorry, come back. No, fuck that, they didn't do that. They stuck to their guns. They knew that this game was risky, they knew that this game was different, and they stuck with that. They could have at any point, even in Second Impact, they could have gone, you know what, screw it, we're not doing Urien, we're not doing Hugo, we're going to do Akuma, we're going to add, you know, these other Street Fighter 2 characters, and we're just going to play it safe. And guess what? The game still would have done shit, because at the end of the day, that's not what really mattered. There was so many other reasons as to why Street Fighter 3 failed beyond its roster. And I think, you know, the people at Capcom who worked on the game, they knew that. They knew that even if they added all these characters back, it wasn't going to make a difference. So, you know, it's better to just stick with your guns. It's better to keep on the track that you originally envisioned it to be, and that's why I love that game, because, you know, I complain so much in other videos about other games, not just Street Fighter, but about how so many games these days just play it so safe, and Third Strike just flies in the face of that. And obviously, you know, I'm not trying to discredit New Generation and Second Impact here, because those games, you know, took risks themselves, don't get me wrong. But, you know, like I said, it's just crazy to me how a game like Third Strike exists, and just, you know, there's no reason why, I keep saying it, but there's no reason why it should have been made. Like, it seems like such an insane game to make after everything that happened before it, and yet it exists. Like, it is what it is. It's Third Strike. You either take it or you leave it. I mean, just every little thing about that game just lines up in such a specific, certain way that just, if it was even just a little bit out of place, it just, the game's just not the same. And obviously, I'm not saying the game is perfect. I mean, I keep saying it is, but, you know, like, obviously I know it's not. Like, I know it has bad balance issues. Like, I know there's other issues in there as well that, you know, people can pick a fault with and go, oh, this sucks, this should have been changed, this shouldn't be good. As somebody, I've said a million times, I don't play fighting games for the gameplay. I know that sounds weird. Like, I'm a story-focused person. I like the characters, I like their narratives, I like their connections to each other. Like, I genuinely didn't give a shit that, like, the Evo Japan finals for Third Strike the other day 8 were like a Yun mirror. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care 90% of the top 8 was Yun versus Chun. Like, I don't care. Like, for fuck's sake, guys, I main Sean. Like, I main Sean. He's my favourite character to play in Third Strike. You think I give a shit about tiers? Like, that stuff is just not important to me. Like, I love the game as it is, warts and all. Would it be better if it had good balance? Sure, I guess it would be. Like I said, it's irrelevant to me. Like, 12 being dog shit to play doesn't stop me from loving the character. Like, I think he's a goofy little troll. Like, I love him for that. Him being top tier doesn't change that. You know, like Sean being top tier in Second Impact isn't even in the top 100 reasons why I love him so much as a character. You know, and him being so low tier in Third Strike means nothing to me. Like, I enjoy playing as him, therefore I main him. So yeah, at the end of the day, no, I wouldn't change anything about the game. I think it's perfect as it is. No, I know objectively it's not a perfect game, but I don't really care about that. I think to me, everything about that game, I don't know, I just don't think it'll ever be topped, personally, for me speaking. And you know, I know that's a controversial statement in and of itself, but like, that's just how I personally feel about it. I don't think any fighting game or game is ever gonna do what Street Fighter 3 Third Strike does. You know, I think so many games have tried in the past, and they will try in the future to try and emulate Third Strike, to try and get close to what that game did and to have the effect and the impact that that game did, but they'll never succeed. Not because I think they're not good enough, or they're not good enough developers, or they're not passionate enough, but because I truly believe the only way Third Strike was made because the people involved in it and the events leading up to it happened in the way that they did. Like I said earlier, like, I don't know if it sounds corny or cringe or whatever, but like, I truly believe it's a fate thing. Like, the way things went, the people that went into the office that day, like the people that worked at Capcom at that time who were assigned to that development team that worked on Third Strike, everything about how that ended up happening is the reason why we have Third Strike. And I truly, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, feel that the reason why we will never have another Third Strike is because we will never have an opportunity where every single person and every single event lines up in that way again. And I know I probably sound so overdramatic and like, you know, just over the top about it, but that's just how I feel. That's just how I personally feel about it. And I know someone out there is going to be like, oh, you know, I like Third Strike and all, but you're being a bit ridiculous. Or like, I think Street Fighter 6 has surpassed it. Blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. You know, you're entitled to think that. I'm absolutely not going to diminish your opinion and think, you know, I'm not going to say you're wrong, even though I personally could not agree any less. I mean, I think the way Street Fighter 6 even does things, like that game absolutely takes stuff from Third Strike and tries to do it, but just nowhere near as good. I mean, just stuff like the overall aesthetic and, you know, the hip-hop urban vibe to it, and stuff like, you know, the character select theme also being a rap song, but, you know, much worse in my opinion. Like, at the end of the day, that's them trying to emulate Third Strike. Even if they themselves don't want to admit that, they are trying to emulate Third Strike, but it's just not as good because it's just not the same people, and it never will be the same people, and it's why we will never get another Third Strike, because you just can't replicate that the same way, because it's just all those things are lined up in that way. Like, you can't replicate it. Honestly, it would be insane for me to keep doing this video and, you know, speaking about Third Strike in this way without talking about the cast of characters that it has. And, you know, I just adore this roster. I adore it so much. I mean, you know, it's obvious at this point, considering how hard I campaign for them to keep coming back and to be in 6, and, you know, for the characters that still haven't come back yet, like Sean, Necro, Q, Remy, 12, you know, how much I want those characters to come back. Man, I love the cast so much in this game. And in a way, I've said it before, I think in other videos and on Twitter and stuff like that, the Third Strike cast, they are my World Warriors. They are the cast of characters that got me into Street Fighter. I would not have even remotely given a shit about this series if the Third Strike cast did not exist. Because I have played every Street Fighter game. I have played 2. I have played every version of 2. I have played every version of Alpha. I have played every version of 4. I have played 5 when it came out. You know, currently playing 6 every now and then for the streams when a new character comes out. No roster in Street Fighter is even remotely close to me on a level that the Third Strike roster is. I just love all of those characters so much. Like, individually, together, they are just the perfect characters in my opinion. Like, I wouldn't change a single thing about any of them. Alex is my favourite fighting game character of all time. Hell, he's one of my favourite video game characters, full stop. I love the guy so much. I love that he's the main character of the game. I love how strong and bashful he is. I love his animations, his design, his mannerisms. When he rips the shirt at the start of the round, his taunt, everything about him is just perfect. I wouldn't change a single thing about Street Fighter 3 Alex. Sean obviously is a character I go on about a lot. Is he the perfect character? No, there's issues. I think I've talked about it before in other videos. I think he's been given, a very harsh treatment a lot of the time, especially in other games, outside of Street Fighter 3. But I still love him. I still love his determination. I love how dedicated he is to, achieving his dreams. I think it's very relatable. I think it's very endearing, and it makes him a very easily lovable character, in my opinion. Necro, I think, is one of the most tragic characters in the entire video game industry. I think he's such a also lovable character, but so tragic and so interesting, and his relationship with Effie is just perfect. I wouldn't change a single thing about their dynamic. Elena is a character I truthfully never really cared about, but a couple of years ago I put some time into playing as her, and I love her. She's such a fun, just endearing, bubbly, cheerful character. She just fills me with so much joy when I see her mannerisms, when I hear her laugh, when I do her taunt where she does the handstand and falls. It's just so cheery, and she's just so full of life, and it's so nice to just see a character like that move and interact with the world around her. Makoto is such a badass, karate fighter. No bullshit, no strings attached, no energy waves, no fireballs, no magic powers. She just punches you, and that's fucking awesome. Dudley is sick. He's probably one of the best characters I think I've ever seen in a video game ever. Dudley is awesome. He is such a fantastic character, such a fantastic concept, executed so perfectly. Such a great character. I really just can't praise Dudley enough. He's so cool. Q is such a fascinating character. I would love to just dive so much into who he is and what his backstory is, and unfortunately there's just not a lot within Third Strike for us to really get that from. I still hate the connotations he has with G. Don't get that's a whole other topic for another day, I guess. But I think Q is such an awesome character. He's just so cool. That design is just so insanely fucking sick. Q is awesome. Remy is a very misunderstood character. Truthfully, I didn't like him the first few times I played Third Strike. I really didn't get the appeal to him. Even I thought, I bought into that joke of he should be in an SNK game. But Remy's awesome. Is he perfect? Hell no. He needs a lot of work done, which is why I've always been so kind of bummed that he's never come back, because he's a character that would absolutely benefit from coming back and getting more development. But the Remy we get is still really cool. I love his mannerisms. I love his backstory. I love his personality. He's such a fantastic emo boy. I love him. He's sick. He's great. 12, like I said earlier, is just a little goober troll. I love him so much. He's so awesome. I mean, his win quotes are in binary, and when you translate them, he says stuff like easy win and laugh my ass off, which is just fucking great. I love that so much. That's so hilarious. And honestly, he's still to this day, I think, one of the best animated characters in a fighting game ever. Maybe even, games as a whole, but just insane visuals on 12. Such an underrated character, and it's a shame that, people overlook how funny he is. He's a funny character. I honestly think he's the funniest character in the game. But, it's so easily overlooked because you have to literally translate his win quotes, and, not a lot of people are going to go and translate binary. And I mean, I could literally sit here and go through the whole roster. I won't, because, I think this video is already going to end up going on long enough. But, Urien, sick character, badass, amazing how they made a guy in a thong the most badass character in that game. Oro as well, sick character. Hugo's awesome. Young and Yang, awesome characters. Ibuki, sick. This is the only game where I actually like Ibuki because it's, before liking boys was just her entire personality. And hell, even the returning characters, Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Akuma, I think for the most part, I think these are the best versions of those characters. Story, character-wise, everything, I think those characters, to me, represent the old generation extremely well. I think they did an amazing job passing the torch from those characters to the new generation. I rambled a lot and very quickly there, but I just love the cast so much. I wouldn't change, much about any of them. Like I said, Sean and Remy are probably one of the only two characters where I think they need a bit of work, and even then, Sean's isn't really his fault. It's just the way they treat him. But yeah, man, I love this cast so much, and it's why I always get so bent out of shape when, Street Fighter 6 or even Street Fighter 5 in the past would be like, hey, here's a new season, and there would just be none of them. And it's why Street Fighter 6, offends me. It does. It's a harsh word, but it offends me how there's just nobody from Street Fighter 3 in that game. There's just no reason. I don't care what anybody says. There's no reason why there's not at least one in the game so far. We're nearly at a year since this game came out, and we're still, there's just none. It's ridiculous. And it just sucks because, you know, I know we're never going to get these characters together in the game again, which just, I think, absolutely just depresses me, honestly. Like, it's such a shame that, like, we'll more than likely, you know, have Alex but no Sean, or we'll have Sean and no Alex, or we'll have Ibuki and no Makoto, or Elena and no Dudley. And yeah, it's just sad to me. That's the, you know, this amazing cast of characters with so much depth to them, so much joy, and just the way they present themselves, the way they interact with the world, the way they interact with their own personal cast of characters that each of them have, the way that, you know, they were designed and written and, you know, brought to life, and they just are like consistently some of the least used characters. It's just, it's sad. It really is sad because they're all awesome, and I would, in a heartbeat, like, I wouldn't even think twice about it. I would kick so many other characters to the curb just to get Necro in a game. You know, just bring back 12 for one game and just get rid of Blanca or something. I think it's a tragedy that so many of these games cast just doesn't come back, or like they just don't come back as much as they should. Like, to me, there's no reason why Alex shouldn't be in every Street Fighter game. Like, he is the other main character. Like, he is, I mean, especially for 6, like, he is, or he should have been the main character at this point in the timeline, but, you know, it's Luke instead. You know, why can't we have Makoto more often? You know, why are we waiting this long for Makoto in Street Fighter 6 after missing Street Fighter 5? You know, as much as I love Ed, and I think Ed is a great character in himself, and I'm glad he's in Street Fighter 6, why was he in the game before Dudley? I didn't want to end up, you know, this being a bitch session about Street Fighter 6, and that's what this has ended up being. But yeah, it's just, you know, it just proves how passionate I am about the cast. Like, I think they all deserve so much better than what they've been given over the years. And it's just a shame that the tragedy, you know, it being that these characters are just so synonymous with Street Fighter 3's failure, which is why Capcom will always be so reluctant to use them compared to other characters. So yeah, I'm going to start wrapping up this video now because, you know, as much as I love Third Strike and could talk about it for hours, you know, my voice needs a rest every now and then, and it's getting a bit strained. I don't know if you can tell at this point, but I've been talking for a while about this game. But, you know, that just shows how much I love it. And yeah, I hope I was just able to get across, you know, how much I love this game, how much it means to me. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I mean, if you have any questions about stuff, or if you have any, you know, things you want to mention, like, oh, what do you think about this part of the game? Please, by all means, you know, post below in the comments. I always read every comment that gets added on this channel. Like, I always enjoy going through them. I mean, even if you want to share your own stories about how you ended up finding Third Strike like I did at the start of this video, you know, please, by all means, I would love to read them. I mean, I love this game so much. I love the community. You know, I'm so glad every day that I've somehow managed to, you know, ingrain myself in the Third Strike community. But, you know, I'm glad that, you know, I at least know some people who play Third Strike who are big names in the Third Strike community, like Arlieth and the Shend, you know, the Street Fighter 3 archivist, you know, awesome people who have done awesome things for Third Strike, and so many other people, you know, who I couldn't even begin to name, and as well just other people who are also just as much of a fan of Third Strike as I am. I mean, like I said, I don't want to, you know, get their names out there in case they don't want their names out there like that. But, you know, people on Twitter who I talk to, you know who you are. But yeah, man, I just love this game. I love it so much. It means truly so much to me. Like, I can't even begin to describe it. Like, I mean, I just did. Well, you know, I just spent however long this video has ended up being describing it. But yeah, I mean, like, words could never, like, truly, like, do it justice how much this game means to me. Like, and I think just how much of a part of it has become a part of myself. Like, I have such a love for this game. And obviously all 3 Street Fighter 3 games, like I said at the start of the video, like, it's not just Third Strike, but Third Strike was the one that got me into the series. Third Strike was the one where I honestly feel like Third Strike was the first game that ever actually made me start caring about the game itself. Because, you know, like I said, I played Tekken, I played, you know, Mortal Kombat. I was never good at those games. I never cared about the gameplay. I never cared about getting good or anything like that. I still, you know, mostly don't care about getting good. But, you know, like, Third Strike was the first game where I was actually like, man, the gameplay is fun. And it was the first time I really noticed that, I feel. You know, it was the first time I played as Sean, it was just like, man, this game is good. And I can feel that, I can notice that, like, even me, the scrubbiest scrub who ever scrubbed, you know, I'm awful at games. The gameplay you've been seeing, I'm sorry, by the way, for some of the, like, character gameplay you've been seeing for, like, Yuri and Remy and Oro. I'm ass at some characters in this game. But, you know, I don't care, I still love playing the game despite that, and I'm able to, you know, realise things and, you know, think about things that I just don't normally think about in other games. And, like, Third Strike was the first game to really make me think that stuff, and it's why I, you know, even though, like, I've always said I'm not a gameplay focused person, and I'm still not. Like, Third Strike is the one game where it's like, I will pay attention to that stuff. I off the top of my head, I think it's the only fighting game where I can actually, like, watch matches and not be bored. Like, I tried watching, like, streams, like Capcom Pro Tour streams of, like, Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 6, and, like, I mean, I can watch it, but, like, I'm not, like, terribly, you know, enthused about, you know, I'm not super invested in it. But like, one of my favorite things sometimes to do is to just like go on Maximilian Dude's like Third Strike playlist, and I'll just go scroll all the way back up to the top and I'll just watch them. You know, I'm not even watching it for Max, I'm just watching it because like the matches of Third Strike in general are just so fun to watch. And yeah, like, it's just so, there's just, I can't think of any other game off the top of my head right now where I feel that way. And I mean, like, combined with everything that I've said before, like the roster and all sorts, like this game has turned into an obsession. Like, well, I mean, an obsession and a passion, you know, both at the same time. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I said, it's become such a huge part of my life, and I'm so happy for that. Like, man, I own so much shit for this game, it's insane. Like, I have so many books in Japanese. I mean, not just for Third Strike, for New Generation and Second Impact as well, but I own so many, like, books in Japanese that, like, I can't read a word of. Like, I can't read Japanese yet, but I have them, and I still, like, flick through them every now and then, because I just love going through them, you know, and just getting more out of that cast, getting more out of that world, you know. I just love it so much. Hey guys, Post-Production Scotia here. I just wanted to interject for a quick second, just to show you some of the stuff that I've collected over the years, especially, you know, regarding Third Strike. I have other stuff as well that you could arguably say I've wasted my money on, but this is mainly just Third Strike stuff I want to focus on for now, and yeah, you know, I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, but yeah, I think I've amassed a decent collection over the years, so yeah, I'm just going to kind of go through it and just kind of show you a bit of each thing I've gathered here. So the first book I want to show off is this one. It's not my favourite Third Strike book that I own, but you know, it's a cool little guide that just kind of goes through frame by frame with some stuff that you can see here. This is Elena's stuff. And yeah, it's just a cool little book. Like I said, not my favourite. There's nothing like massively interesting in it, but you know, it's a pretty neat book. It's got character profiles in each character. There's Q, for example. Yeah, it's just a neat little book. There's nothing else I could really say about it, to be honest. Next up is this book right here. This is the Portal Step Build-Up Art. I like this one a lot, to be honest. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here, a lot of artwork from Daigo Ikeno, a lot of sketch artwork regarding each character. This one is again kind of similar to the previous book I just showed you, where you know, you have profiles here of each character, like obviously here's Ken and all of his colours. Very cool book. Towards the end there is some kind of sketch artwork and some concept art, I think mostly from like Daigo Ikeno. Like here you have some Remy concept art. Really cool book. Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite ones I've got with you know, in regards to Third Strike, I mean. Yeah, pretty cool book. I really like that one a lot. Next is this one, and this one is funny because I bought this thinking this was, you know, just another book to add to the collection, and it was pricey. I can't remember how much it was exactly because it was a, you know, quite a few years ago now. But this is the secret file for Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. And if you don't know what the secret files are, basically in the mid to late 90s, Capcom did a lot of these. These are Capcom secret files, and they're kind of like little fan books with lots of little cool artwork and kind of skits in them, you know, that are the subject of each game. So for example, this one was about Third Strike. There's one for New Generation. There's one for Second Impact. There's one for... off the top of my head, there's one for Red Earth, there's some for Darkstalkers, so they did a lot of these. And a little hint, I am planning a big video, you know, at the moment regarding these secret files, so you're getting a little bit of a tease here. Yeah, I spent a lot of money on this one, and I was very surprised when it finally turned up after I bought it on eBay, and it's like 12 pages. And, you know, the money I spent on this, arguably not worth, you know, 12 pages, but it's still really cool to have. You know, you have a lot of the sprite kind of line art here, I guess you could say. I don't know the proper term. You have, you know, I think some people have seen this before. You know, this, oh, there we go, the wrong way. This is a sort of kind of artwork of the whole cast. This one has a very movie kind of television theme. Obviously, the front cover is Chun-Li, you know, on a TV, and you know, each one of these secret files have their own theme. I believe Second Impacts is the one that it's actually based on the billboards. The billboard in Street Fighter 6 with Hugo on it, and it says Giant Attack. That's from Second Impact's secret file, and that one's like movie themed again, but it's more like Godzilla and kind of like kaiju type stuff. But yeah, a lot of really cool stuff in here. There's a part here where you've got Infinite recording some stuff for Third Strike soundtrack. Really, really cool stuff. So yeah, very expensive, but very, very cool piece of, you know, Street Fighter 3 nostalgia and, you know, history to have here. So yeah, really, really cool. I'm really, really glad I got this. So moving away from the books for a second here and moving to the games, I own quite a few copies of this game. The first one I ever bought was this, which is a PAL region version of Third Strike on the Dreamcast. Yes, I actually own a Dreamcast, believe it or not. I don't use it because, you know, it's a Dreamcast. I probably, you know, offended some people with that one, but yeah, just sorry, I've never really found a use for it outside of buying Third Strike and Double Impact on it. But yeah, the PAL version of Third Strike, that was the first version of Third Strike I ever bought. I then got these as well off eBay, and I'm quite happy with these. These are the Japanese versions of Double Impact and Third Strike. These things come off, they're really annoying. I don't know if anybody's ever collected or bought, you know, Japanese Dreamcast games. These things suck, I hate them. They fall off all the time. But I also own a Japanese copy of Third Strike on the Dreamcast. So yeah, again, never going to have a use for it. I barely use my, you know, PAL region Dreamcast. I don't even own a Japanese Dreamcast. But it's one of those things I just thought was cool to have. So I got it. Another thing that I think is very cool to have is a PS2 copy of Third Strike. Now this in particular is very special because, you know, it's a bog standard PS2 copy of Third Strike, but the cool thing about it is that it came as part of this thing that I bought, which is, oh, there we go, is the, where's the light? There we go. There, this is the special limited edition version of Third Strike on the PlayStation 2, and I bought this on eBay. I think I bought all of this on eBay. Maybe a couple of other places. Yeah, so this was a part of it. This came inside of it. Obviously, this very, very cool Chun-Li box. I think Akiman did the artwork for this. To be honest, if it's Chun-Li, it's probably Akiman who drew it. And there's a lot of other cool stuff in this. If I just open it. Here is a special DVD that features quite a few, I believe, matches. It's in Japanese. I don't know why I'm looking at the back. I can't read it. But I think this is just basically a compilation DVD featuring a ton of matches, you know, iconic matches of Third Strike. So very, very cool thing to have here. And then this thing, I actually had plans for this, believe it or not. I was going to do something with this as a stream, but I've never found out a way to do it yet. And this is one of the very memorable, oh, I've just realised, the jumper I'm wearing is, oh, there we go. The jumper I'm wearing is this version of Alex, is from this artwork of Alex here. This is a jigsaw piece puzzle, believe it or not, and if I just take it out, never been opened. I have yet to open this. I was going to do a stream at some point of me doing this, like just putting this together as a jigsaw puzzle as a live stream. I might still do it in the future, but yeah, just a puzzle piece that was one of the things that came in this version of the game, which I think is very cool and very funny for some reason. And then the last thing that pretty much came with this edition of the game is this big ass book here, and this is actually, I didn't know this until, you know, after I started reading it. This is a combination of two books. This is one book that I don't actually own yet. I have, you know, I've had my eye on it for a while. Sorry. This one, yes. Half of this book is the Conclusion Step Master the Secret book. This one with Chun-Li on the cover, and the other half is the Portal Step Build-Up Arts, which is the first book I showed you. Not the first book, but one of the first books I showed you. So yeah, this is actually two books in one. This has all the same stuff that was in the other book and some other stuff as well. The other book, the one with Chun-Li on the cover, has a lot of really cool stuff like this, where you got like sketch work of the character and then frames from their ending. Really, really cool book. Like, I really like this one a lot. Unfortunately, the person that I did buy this from kind of didn't reveal how damaged this book was. As you may have no doubt tell, some of the pages have fallen out of this book, unfortunately. It's a shame. It is what it is, though. The guy was very apologetic once he dispatched it. I mean, he didn't tell me that beforehand, before I bought it. But, you know, he was kind enough to give me a discount or refund me some of the money for the order. So, you know, can't argue with that. And I think it's just cool to have the book, you know. I mean, 25 years at this point that this game's been out, so I think all of this merchandise and stuff that they did for the game, you know, I think a couple of loose pages isn't the end of the world considering how long it's been. So yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff I really have of Third Strike. I have other stuff as well. I have posters over there of Third Strike that I haven't hung up on the wall yet, because we recently finished moving some stuff around in this room. But yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to do, just really show some stuff and me geek out about this. It's very awkward. You may realise I'm using a green screen. Apologies if the green screen turns out dodgy. This is the first time I've really used it. It's very awkward to use. I will probably get a better one at some point. But yeah, sorry to inject, but yay, Third Strike. I have lots of stuff for it. I'm bad with money. So back to the rest of the video. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up now. Obviously, I love the game, if you couldn't tell already. I really wish I could have, done my original plans, like going to Japan and, doing stuff at Corporation Cup and, in some of the arcades. But, it's definitely something I will try and do in the future. Like, I'm not just going to give up on it fully just yet. But yeah, hopefully, you all got a bit more of an idea about why I like this game so much, why it means so much to me, the journey I took to get there. Hopefully you enjoyed me going through it all, and yeah, 25 years, man, crazy. I mean, I'm 28, I only turned 28 the other week. So, I'm only a little bit older than Third Strike. I mean, I didn't even talk about Evil Moment number 37, which is one of those things that, obviously, I think a lot of people kind of credit/blame, like, Third Strike's popularity for. Obviously, Evil Moment number 37 is such a huge part of Third Strike's overall kind of, like, mythos and lore. And, I think it's well-deserved, obviously, but, I didn't even know what Evil Moment number 37 was until years after I started playing Third Strike, because I know a lot of people tend to kind of say like, oh, that person doesn't play Third Strike, they just cash in on Evil Moment number 37, which, I'm sure some people do, but from my experience, all the people I've ever interacted with about Third Strike, all the people who I've ever talked to who have been about as passionate about the characters in the world and the game, about about everything as much as I am, it's just not the most important thing about the game for us. The game is so much more than Evil Moment number 37. It's an integral part, don't get me wrong, and I love that it's so synonymous with Third Strike, and it will always be one of the crowning achievements of that game's legacy. But I think Third Strike as a game is just so much more than it. And I really, really, really do love it. It's not just a fad for me. It's not just a bandwagon for me to jump on. Like, the game means so much to me, and hopefully this video conveyed that. But yeah, I'm going to leave things here for real this time, I swear. Thank you all for everybody who got this far in the video. I really do appreciate it. Thank you again to Quasimodo X for doing the thumbnail for this video. It turned out awesome. I really, really loved it. So big shout out to you. I'm grateful for that. So yeah, all I can say now is happy anniversary, and go and play some Third Strike, guys. I heard it's a good game. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Soldiers, thugs, and gangbangers, just like we showed you that last part of your life.
We await your return, warrior.